The LNP member for the seat of Dawson, of course, our federal member, is Andrew Wilcox, who's with me this morning. Andrew, welcome as always.
Yeah, thanks very much. Good to be
So
here.
you just had a listen there to Senator Chisholm. Your thoughts?
Oh, well, have a look at it. But let's call it for what it is. It's actually a new tax. Put the emission standards beside. This is a tax on tradies, it's a tax on farmers, it's a tax on fishers, and those vehicles will go up. And when they talk about a range, how can you have... Look, we can't have our tradies driving around in a Suzuki Swift. They need to be able to cover the distances. They need to be able to put their tools in the back, need to be able to carry the load and do things. And look, these smaller vehicles just won't do that. So this is another tax on rural and regional Australia.
Now, I shouldn't say obviously. I mean, you're not against the idea of trying to cut down our carbon output, though, I would imagine.
No, not at all. But we need to have a strong economy. We need to be able to keep our farmers farming. We need to be able to have a vehicle that if someone wants to put a couple of 44-gallon drums of fuel in the back of their ute and go down and fill up a pump and everything, they need to be able to do that. And our fishers need to be able to have a four-wheel drive to put their boats in and out. And the Chamber of Automotive Industries have said that vehicles will be going up from a D-Max approximately up to 13,000 up to a Land Cruiser up to 25,000. Now, we're living in a Labor-created cost of living crisis at the present point in time, and this is just going to drive everything up. So, how many tradies do you know that can afford another $13,000 for a ute?
Well, I hear what you're saying there, but the senator was claiming that when that is a company like a Ford, it makes them bring in more efficient vehicles, so they spread that sort of carbon credit tax, if you like, across the range, therefore not affecting the buyer. Do you take that on board?
Oh, I do take it on board. So let's get all the tradies out there. Don't worry about your Ford Ranger, mate. Sell that and get a Ford Festiva. Bang the ladder up on top. Get your tools and everything in the back of that. Put the long, if you're a plumber, put the long tube so you can put the pipe in. It's just absolutely ridiculous. This is about trying to steer people into EVs, electric vehicles, and we're just not ready for it up here. We don't have the infrastructure to be able to charge up the EVs, and the EVs simply, they can't carry the weight, they can't tow the load, and they can't go over the large distances that are required in electorates like mine. So I'm for reducing the carbon footprint, but let's do it in a clever way rather than taxing the hell out of the people who are actually contributing to this country.
Something you might be able to help me with here, Andrew Wilcox, federal member for Dawson, and that is when we talk, and you mentioned a D-Max, all right? So its emissions under the NVES, its emissions means it has to pay some sort of carbon offset tax, right? 13 grand is the figure. And we hear this on all sorts of different things about so many different things. But where does the money go?
Oh, it goes to the government, mate. That's what I said. So it's just another tax. And interesting, you use that D-Max as an example. We heard about the good senator before talking about offsets in their range. D-Max only have two in Australia, two Isuzus. They haven't got any range. So what will happen there? People will, if they won't pay the extra $13,000, Isuzu will pull out of that market. So what happens? It's supply and demand. You pull out of the market, supply goes down, prices will go up, and once again, our Australians will be paying through the nose for gear. It's just not right, mate.
Okay. Is this, and you've been down in Canberra this year a couple of times, is this something that a lot of people like yourself that are in rural-based seats are talking about?
Well, I was down there last week, and I spoke out of my speeches. I did two on this particular topic, because what happens? It's like what the Labor government's doing here. It's how you train a horse, right? You put pressure on one side, then the horse goes in the other direction. What they're doing is using levers here to guide an outcome. So they're making it more difficult and more expensive for SUVs, for four-wheel drives, and so people will then try to experiment in different sort of forms of transportation. Now that might work in the city, but for up here, so they've got a electric vehicle. They say it's good for 400 k's, but when you put a load in it, it's good for 150 k's. So 150 k's, and then you've got to go and charge. So one, you've got to find a charge station, and two, what happens if you're the third, fourth, or fifth person at that charge station? Do you sit around? Who pays the tradies bill while he's doing that? while he's on his way to the next place. It's going to be, they're going to have to either pass that cost on to people, which will make cost of living worse, or make themselves go broke, and then you get the supply and demand situation. The next person's going to be able to charge more.
Well, the other thing that struck me was the amount of utes with full mine spec that we've got driving around the likes of the Mackays and the Whitsundays and the Prossies and the Serenas and all that. To flip them over to EV at the moment, I note with great interest BMA's entered into a contract to try and change some Hiluxes over. That would be incredibly interesting if they were all EVs.
100%. Where is the infrastructure to charge these? I'm for reducing our footprint, but let's do it in a sensible way. Let's not kill our economy, and let's not hurt all the families, because there's a lot of families up here that travel away for football and those sort of things as well. So you throw mum in the passenger side seat and the kids in the back, and then all your footy gear in the back. You need a bigger vehicle.
Hybrid vehicles, are they the answer?
Oh, I think they're a good stepping stone. They're away. Again, very difficult for us with the distances, but why not have those like in the cities, use them in the cities for smaller commutes, even some of the EVs, if you've only got a small commute and you can charge it overnight and go into the office. But the other advantage to the cities they got buses and trains running Hell West and Crooked. We haven't got anything like that here. So we need our vehicles. So my philosophy is fix what you can, but do it in a sensible, steady manner, and do not put the people who contribute so much to this country, your farmers, your fishers, your miners, your tradies, do not penalise them. It's just not right.
Okay, so if I was to paraphrase our conversation, you're on board with changing our carbon output in this country. It's just can't go as quick as the federal government wants us to go at the moment.
Yeah, look, the coalition had a sensible policies out to 2050, but now that's being compressed by the Labor government. They're bringing it in. They want to do it a hell of a lot quicker. It's the same as with all this reckless race to renewables of what they're doing. With all this, so there's 28,000 kilometres of poles and wires that they're going to bang up. So put those all across the country. So I'm a farmer by trade. I get how it works. If you want to reduce your carbon footprint, you grow more things. You have a plant photosynthesizes, pulls carbon out of the air and turns it into oxygen. So why would you wipe out 28,000 kilometres of area where you then run power lines and thousands and thousands and thousands of acres and put in solar panels? You put steel in there rather than plants. It doesn't make much sense to me.
Look, I'll leave it there this morning, Andrew, but as always, thank you for your time. Do appreciate it.
Thank you, and thanks for your listeners.
Andrew Wilcox there, the federal member for Dawson.
Authorised by Andrew Wilcox, LNP Mackay.